Booyah.
Hey, everybody, come on in. Florida State, 1-7. Florida State loses their rivalry game to Miami 36-14. Wasn't as good as that score. Actually, it was more like 29-7, 37-7. Miami, on the third drive of the game, you put Luke Kromenhoek in and you cut it down to 14-7. And there was a point in the middle of that game where you had sort of a chance, but Adam's going to read some of the game on paper stats, post-win expectancy. It wasn't really, it wasn't good. It wasn't close. You had less than 250 total yards against a pretty mediocre defense.
It's bad defense.
You were okay on defense. Like, you did good limiting the explosives of Cam Ward, and you held him to one of his most ineffective games on the season, and you gave up a lot of yards on the ground. You got gashed a few times. It was a lifeless. It was a lifeless rivalry game, and largely kind of a lifeless performance from most of the team. That I think really, there's two moments that, and we'll talk about the play on the field, but the two moments that really stuck out to me. The first, it was on like Miami's like seventh drive of the game. There was a fourth down call, or no, it was like a third and long or something like that. Like, Darrell Jackson just got a sack, and Blake Nicholson got a holding call on like third and like, I don't know, 15.
No, that was in the fourth quarter.
That was in the fourth quarter.
They had two long third down conversions.
Oh,
in the first quarter.
The 3rd and 20 on like Miami's third drive of the game, that was like a pivotal game moment. These two moments I'm going to talk about were pivotal, like, that just are going to stick with me after the game. Blake Nicholson makes the holding call, and Mike Norvell like looks up to the heavens, like exasperated. And I'm annoyed by that reaction, because it's, once again, it's a young guy, he made a mistake, whatever, but you as the head coach looking up exasperated, as if some higher power is raining down his wrath upon you. It's like, no, dude. You have the power to fix this. Like, you have the power to change your destiny, and you're not doing it. You have a roster that is not cheap, and we've discussed it on these instant reactions many times, and you're under-coaching them. Your whole staff is under-coaching them. And that level of exasperation, it carries over to the team. The team plays like a listless, exasperated team that just seems to be, oh, shucks, we're victims of fate. Like, I feel like bad things happen to this team. This team feels like they have no agency in life. So I saw that from the head coach, which I was not thrilled with. I thought the sideline reports, like after they gave up that big 3rd and 20 that you mentioned, he sounds down. He sounds exasperated. He sounds defeated. That emanates out, that exudes from your pores. And then the other thing to me that just, I don't get, man, you had Luke in. He scored your only real non-garbage time touchdown of the game on a drive that was weird and gross, but also oddly beautiful, totally engineered by his athleticism. You stick with him throughout the rest of the game. Great. It feels like, okay, you made your decision. Either you've made the decision or it's whatever. The play has made the decision for you. Whatever. 7th drive of the game, you put Brock Glenn back in, which I have no idea why. I don't, maybe you say that, oh, well, we've made our decision and, Luke's our guy of the future, so we don't want to get him hurt for the rest of the season. I'd be interested to see what the thought process was behind that. But, dude, you need to get Luke all the reps that you can. So I don't understand that decision. It reeks of just, you're just so non-committal. This is such a non-committal, lack of urgency team that we'll talk about the play on the field. But those two reactions from like the coaching staff, those are my takeaways of the game. I just don't like where everyone's head is at. I don't like the energy. I don't like the accountability, and I don't like the urgency. What do you think? Am I reading too much into those, Adam?
I don't know. I'm annoyed by the whole head up thing, but I do think that I'm the negative guy. Okay,
I know.
Let me be the negative guy. I do think there is a massive, I don't want to call it an overreaction, because you're 1-7. Like, they dropped a stat. No team's done that in 70 years, going from freaking undefeated or perfect season to 1-7. A lot of people need to potentially find new employment next year.
A lot of changes need to be made.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't overreact. I can't have a reaction or a feeling that every time he puts his head up. There is so much that goes on in the course of a football game that'll frustrate the hell out of you. What aggravates me more about it is like you're in control of some of those things. And some of those things, like the guys not getting off the field fast enough, you guys are in control of that. So don't throw your head up into the sky because you're frustrated about that. Get that shit figured out during the week. Like
Right.
get that tightened up, and then you're not having to throw your head up out of frustration. So I like look, I understand people being aggravated by it. I saw people talking about it.
Oh,
You and
did
I
you? Because that was just me. I stayed off
no,
Twitter for
no.
like
People have,
largely most of
yeah,
the
it's
game.
all
Yeah.
over. It's all over Twitter. I mean,
Okay.
that's like I don't know. It's just one of those ones. Like I mean, I've been there. I've been on teams that have been blown out and lost every game. Like it, you don't know what the hell else to do. You just don't know what else to do
Mm-hmm.
in the moment. But it's like, I mean, the accountability is a big one for me. That's a big thing, and so many of these issues that show up throughout the course of a game are because of lack of accountability. And like, if you would just fix some of that stuff, you may not feel that frustration. But things have snowballed, and when things snowball, you can't always necessarily see what the problem is.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of where he is. Like I feel like he's in a spot right now where he's so close to it, he can't see the problem.
It just feels like he's along for the ride. That the whole team feels like they're along for this ride. And it was like, no, you're right. Like you have agency over if you illegally substitute 2 or 3 times during a game. You have agency over if you cover the running back on a 3rd and 20. You have agency if you keep skying and dirting snaps as a
Yeah.
super senior center. Like that's what I don't like. And even if dude,
Mhm.
I don't like to look too deep into it too. Everybody's human.
Yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
season from hell. It's okay to have a reaction like a human being. But as the head man, there have been way too many public reactions of like
Mhm.
despair and disgust where it's like, to me, it was like, hey, that sucks, Blake. Like, coach him with, there's no
Mhm.
fire, dude. It was a
Yeah.
fireless game. It's a fireless rivalry. And there's no moments of, I don't feel any fire, man.
Somebody said it earlier, like you're overreacting to if he puts his head down next week, you'll be mad about that. I mean, I get where people are coming from with those kinds of thoughts. Like, we're complaining about him putting his head up, complaining about it. It's not necessarily the head up,
it's
like
not
looking
the,
to the skies frustration thing. It's just he doesn't seem like he's got control of this team. I think that's more of where, like, when I'm looking at it, I'm aggravated because he doesn't have a grasp of what's going on. It looks like to me. Like it
yeah,
looks to me like you're putting your head up asking for answers or putting your head down or doing whatever. Like it's not the head up. It's not that. It's just in that moment, what control is he having? And he's not having any, and that's a problem because you just signed a massive freaking contract. You need to kind of have control of this, and he doesn't seem like he does.
yeah, it's one thing, and like I said, I don't want to belabor it too much, but the the actions and the body language and the emotions also confirm the play on the field. It's very
Mhm.
similar. Like
Yeah. Yep.
that's the problem. They don't know what the problem is and they're actively trying to fix it. It's just we're all victims of fate and we're all along for a
Yeah.
ride that we can't really control. So I didn't like it too much. Let's talk about the actual play on the game. I guess we can stick with the defense, and I'm sure people want to pull out and go to the macro. It was one of those deals where the game largely went as everybody thought it would, and it went a little bit better at the
Yeah.
beginning than we thought it would. So that's why I don't have. That's what I say. I don't want to belabor it too much. Miami did pretty much largely what we thought it was going to do, and it was a little bit more encouraging in some areas, like on the defense performance for most of the game, and it was more discouraging on the offense, even though they were banged up because Miami's defense is pretty mediocre. But Adam, what do you want to start with? Florida State's offensive or defensive performance?
Um, Talking about this offense is such a waste of time, but we can start there.
Okay.
I'll sum it up quickly. Um, you had a grab bag of offense tonight, try with trick plays and trick formations, trying to create any type of offense. And I get that. It
Mhm.
aggravates me because weeks ago they made this mockery towards people for talking about trying stuff out and, having intent. And now here you are grab bagging because you don't have an offense. Brock looks like a guy that is trying his hardest, but he also at times it feels like he looks like a guy that knows he's lost this quarterback job to a true freshman. Luke's trying really hard.
Oh my God, absolutely.
I mean, it's just, he's a true freshman and the game's moving a little fast for him. I think at some point we're going to have a conversation about the accuracy issues because they show up with Luke and they show up with Brock. That's a problem. And one that cost you some points tonight. I mean, I think you talk about some missed calls that probably cost you a touchdown on the LT on that fourth down LT wheel. Looked like a holding, but they didn't call it, so it is what it is. Somebody asked, do I really think Brock is done? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I have no clue, but I mean, you gave Brock 2 drives.
He got 2 drives. The third they brought Luke in.
Yeah, and then you went with Luke for the entire rest of the game until it was out of hand, and you went back to Brock. That I didn't get to my opinion on that. That was a mockery to me. I was fine with the whole game, like it was what it was. I wasn't expecting a whole lot. That pissed me the hell off. That was like Mike Norvell not being man enough to make a commitment to, we're going with Luke. Brock, you're going to have to deal with it. We'll figure this out in the offseason. Like at some point, you need to be an adult that can make a tough decision and have a tough conversation and relay to these guys what the hell's going on. Luke is clearly the guy you want to go with. Do not pitter patter between the two because you're just going to screw yourself and lose them both. Like you can't do that bullshit.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. It didn't make sense, and they kind of did it with the Duke game as well. It's just they seem like they have like a plan going in. Like, the Luke is going to get the third series, and they probably thought they were going to rotate from there. And it's like, well, Luke scores, so we're just going to stick with Luke the whole game. It's like, okay, so you made a decision. So I watching at home go, okay, they made a decision. You got to have a tough message to relay to Brock Glenn, but you're, well, whatever. And then it's just, you go back. Then you go back to, it's like, now it's an open competition again. And it's just, it's perfect. It's a perfect microcosm for like what I feel about this team. We don't know there's no defined plan. You see, even with bad teams, you can see that there's a plan. They just don't have the talent or the execution to get the plan done. I don't think we have the plan. And if we do have a plan, it changes at the drop of trying to like chase a win. Like it's just, you're spiting yourself all over the place, right?
And the other issue is I don't think these guys read situations very well either. Like I think they probably think, oh, we're not going to make them frustrated. They're going to be fine. They won't care. They love playing here. I know their character. I know how often do we hear, I know who these guys are. I know their character.
Yeah,
man, buddy, you keep playing these games, you're going to find out about character real quick. I mean, nobody wants to be put back out there in freaking garbage time after they were a starter in the beginning of the game and they got benched for 3 quarters. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to do that. I don't care about how much you think Brock Glenn loves this program. If I'm Brock Glenn's dad, I'm pulling his ass tomorrow and taking him somewhere else next season. Like he's red shirt and we're out of here. I would not stand for that shit for a second.
I just don't get it, man. Like
Bush League. It was so Bush League.
Yeah. I'm with you. It felt really wrong. It felt wrong for it, almost like you said, like you kind of made your decision, like that Luke's going to be your guy and you didn't want to get him hurt. That's where it kind of felt like secretly it was that. And then you can play it under, then you can like obfuscate it later. It's like, no, it's still an open competition. But I don't know. I feel like we all know and I can't speak for them. I don't know where their heads are at, but I feel like we all know naturally where this is going, and it's going towards number 14 is going to be your guy.
It's blatantly obvious.
It really is, man. Like, and it's no slight to Glenn. He's been put in a lot of tough situations, and we're not making it any easier on him with the decisions we've made ever since. But this is a tough big boy game. Have a tough big boy conversation and start building towards the future. because this whole half in, half out thing, you can't sell that on the trail. You can't sell that to transfers.
It's just a laundry list of tough conversations that you haven't been willing to have. You know, Zach talked about it on one of the pods. Like, there was a running back they were recruiting, and somebody didn't like talk to the kid for like 3 weeks or something like that. And then the kid comes and is like, "Hey, you recruiting me or not?" And then finally they do. It's like, but where was the tough conversation before that about like, "Hey, are we following up with this dude? We really like this running back." Like, these things just seem to fester throughout this program. A lack of having a difficult conversation and holding somebody accountable to do their job.
Yeah, it's like we don't want to be the bad guy. Like we have a coach of really good, like high character guys, this coaching staff. But if you keep avoiding these negative conversations, like you're having a lot of negative effects on people, man. Like I said, I don't get it, and it's happened a lot, and it's happening on the field, and it has negative consequences already. It's gonna have far-reaching, more negative consequences if you continue to monkey around with these decisions. But back on the offense, Brock got the two drives, punt. He didn't play well. There were like accuracy issues. No, they were not competitive. You bring Luke in, and God, you got a bunch of weird stuff there.
Yeah,
bad pitch, awful snap. However, you got a touchdown. Just snaps all season have been bad.
The entire game, they've been an issue.
But you got it to 14-7, and then you get to the, I think, second half. You get a nice boot rollout from him, 7-yard run up the middle. There was a miscommunication between Hakeem and Luke. He didn't have a great game. He missed high-pointed a ball from Brock where it was up in the air forever. And then that's where we talked about the same. They built something off of that toss play to Keziah Holmes. They built in that wheel. Like I said, missed call there. Tron was open over the middle. I didn't have any problem with the call, but then turnover on downs. You bring Brock in, you dirt it. You only threw for 115. You ran for about, what'd you run for? Like you ran for like 130, 133. And do we feel like they did seem to have throughout the middle and the end of the game, Adam, it seemed like they actually did have some success running the ball.
Yeah. I mean, they were
with Toafili on like early downs.
89th percentile in EPA per rush. So, I mean, it's not terrible. They had a decent explosive play rate, but not anywhere near what they want to be. The problem is third down success, 29%. I mean, yards per play, 4.13, 10th percentile. Success rate, 32%. EPA per drop back, negative 0.36.
And yet you didn't run the ball more.
I mean, this passing game is just non-existent. They can't drop back and throw the football. And who would expect that they can with Mo high snap at every play, Rob Scott starting at left tackle, and Jacob Rizzi making his first start tonight at left guard. I guess Otto, maybe, I don't know if he's dinged up. I'm not sure. I don't know if that was said at all in the pregame.
I think he was stretching out. He was stretching out or something pregame or something like that. I don't know. We'll get some clarity on that.
You can't pass block. Then you got nobody that can get open to throw to. They had the one nice throw to Jakai down the sideline, which was a really nice well-placed ball. Yeah, it was a really well-placed ball. Amari Williams It looked like Luke underthrew him late in the game. Needed that to be out or up, but it was down and kind of behind, allowed Maui Noah to get his hands in there. Trying to think of some other plays that kind of stood out to me. He had a Landon Thomas play that bad snap, bad timing on third down.
Yeah, that was the one right before one of their turnover on downs where they went high snap, so Luke overthrew it, screwed up the timing, and they went 5 wide. He immediately got sacked, and then of course Miami scored afterwards. Miami scored on. They had, what did they have, like eight drives, and they scored on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they scored on like 7. You only forced like one punt the entire game.
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't. You kept them out of the end zone, and
you're all right. I guess we can just transition to defense because offensively, what else is there to talk about?
The only one thing I would want to talk about more for offense, you you ran the ball 28 times.
Yeah.
You had 4.8 yards per rush. That includes, I'm sure, some of the quarterback stuff in there. You threw the ball 32 times and you had 3.6 yards per pass, right? Like, I feel like they should have run the ball more. That's the one thing. I know we don't like to talk about play calling too much because it's a lot more difficult than people think. You got young quarterbacks in there. You got a line that can't pass block. You know that this defense is going to bring pressure. Sometimes it sounds counterintuitive, but the best way to attack the blitz is to run right at it. The play selection kind of baffled me, and it didn't really do him any favors, I don't think. And then we can move on to defense.
I didn't sit there thinking, oh gosh, I wish we'd have seen this play call. I mean, there was a couple runs. I mean, they had a couple runs that kind of went there down on the goal line. Before the first touchdown, they ran it like 4 plays in a row or something like that. Like, so you got a couple extra runs that kind of got jumbled up on you, and then they're throwing late to kind of get some opportunities in the end of the game, which are going to blow up your passing numbers. I mean, they didn't run that many plays tonight. It says 60 here. I mean, Miami kind of controlled the football, and you were kind of content with letting them do that, and that's kind of what your game plan is anyway. But you don't get any takeaways to help yourself. I just think they go kind of hand in hand with you're going to sit back with 2 safeties and not let them get any explosive plays, which is smart against this offense. And it worked for the most part throughout the game until they kind of wore you out because you just can't stay on the field offensively. I mean, I don't know. It felt like they popped a couple runs, but for the most part, the run game was inconsistent, which is what we've seen. Like I recall one stretch, right before the end of the third quarter, they hit like an 8-yard run to LT. Then they try to come back and follow it up with an outside zone run to the left, get a holding call, Mo. Like, so I feel like the run game was more of a mixed bag than what maybe we.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, everything's a mixed bag, right?
So they had 25 rushes, 3 power run attempts, 34.8 O-line yards, 1.3 per carry. Brutal. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you had more highlight yards, or less highlight yards, but better per rush opportunity. These freaking numbers mean nothing to me.
Yeah, I know, dude. And you could tell from the game plan what they worked in. They had Wildcat. The second drive, they had a lot of wide receiver screens built in. You blocked a little bit better on the perimeter. It's whatever. The offense is bad. It's going to continue to be bad, but you need to figure out who you want to be bad with. So maybe you're not so bad next year. Okay, moving on to defense.
This is garbage defense.
First drive was terrifyingly bad.
Yeah.
Miami gashed you with tempo. They knew that they were going to get one-on-one looks on the outside. They really, really put a lot of emphasis on your cornerbacks, and it was to tackle and cover, and it was super easy. So to me, I was like, okay, Dawson knows that he's going to get a lot of man coverage because he's playing Adam Fuller, and we're in big trouble because they're going to take advantage of it all night. And to their credit, man, they started off that second drive with a nice run up the middle, and then they started to – Adam Fuller dialed up the pressure, right? They started bringing more people in the face. Edwin Joseph have a great blitz off the edge. You force Miami into a punt, and then this is where the third drive, this was really such a back-breaking drive because then it was 7-0. You're still in the game a little bit longer than you think you should be. You got him in 3rd and 20. Just brutal, an absolutely brutal miscommunication.
I'm anxious to see that one on film review if we get a good look at it. It may not without the all 22, but you leave Martinez uncovered underneath. It's a check down, and then AZ comes up and doesn't make any type of legitimate tackle attempt on him. And he was probably 8 yards short of the first down at that point. Like, just get a hold of him, hang on for dear life, and let your guys rally to you. Or don't fall for the jab step to the sideline because you're okay letting him go to the sideline because you can push him out of bounds. But instead, you fall for that fake and let him get back into the middle of the field and pick up more yardage. I don't know. That was just bad fundamentals all around there. Really frustrated me. But they just too many times. Q had a 3rd down where he's playing like 12 yards off, and they give their guys some freedom to move around and decide how deep they're going to be. Like,
and they caught us in the all-out blitz.
I don't. Maybe they don't still, but they did at some point. Like, if they do, may need to take that away from him. May need to take that freedom away from him and not let him do that because he may need to be a little bit closer on. I think it was like 3rd and 13 or something like that, and he gives up just a cheap one, and you just can't do that. That can't happen.
Yeah.
You don't take the ball away at all. Yeah, 3 plays in a row we had opportunity to take the ball away. The fumble, you can't get on it. Kevin Knowles doesn't get his head around on a ball to make a pick, and then there was the play right after that. You have an opportunity to get your hands on the ball. Oh, the slant that they're kind of bottling around, and you couldn't get to it. I mean, just this team is allergic to taking the ball away. I'm not calling it takeaway anymore. That's what Adam Fuller wants to call it. I'm not doing it because he doesn't deserve it. Because your guys don't do it, so you can't create turnovers.
Yeah, once again, this is a team without action. This is a team without agency. A takeaway implies agency and intent, and this team has neither. We're just there. They roll out the ball and we play and we try kind of hard and we try to limit the damage, and then we get off the bus and we lose by 3 touchdowns and we go play next week, dude. It's such a bad watch. But anyway, they go down 14-0. They get the 4th drive, Miami. Darrell Jackson, props to him. A couple of guys I want to highlight. Darrell Jackson had a great game, multiple sacks. The D-line was a little bit shaky on the interior defending the run at the beginning of the game. I thought they did a good job generating pressure against Cam Ward, and the coverage was pretty good. And then Cam Ward does what he does. He improvs, and he got some easy completions out of that. You honestly limited him. He didn't have any touchdowns except for the one that he caught.
Yeah, just over 200 yards passing. No touchdowns except for the BS.
Probably his worst game of the season, right?
Yeah.
And then Omar Graham is another dude that I want to highlight. I thought that he has made leaps and bounds strides from that beginning of the game. Well, there you go. 42-yard rush. You take that one out. And the rushing game sucked too. So there you go, brother. Thank you, Saeem. You guys are watching on YouTube.
Yikes.
You take away the 42-yard Luke rush had 7.51 EPA, and then the remaining rushes were 23 for minus. That means every time you ran the ball, it was negative points. So that's great stuff. God, I hate it so much. I don't know. The overall defensive performance, I thought they played hard. I thought they got worn out. You still let Miami score on nearly every single drive that they had. We knew that was the elite unit of their team. And I get going in with the game plan that you did to limit the explosives, limit the damage from them. Cause that is Miami's best unit on their team by far. That's the best half of their team. Yep. And you almost executed. It's just, you did so little on the other side that it didn't matter, but that still is that's no makeup for the illegal substitutions, for the penalty, for the other penalties. Yeah, and just there's something on third downs, dude.
It's aggravating because that side of the ball, after the whole the banjo mix-ups early in the year, especially the BC game,
the coverage miscommunications.
After that, they've played pretty clean. I said something on Twitter the other day, got people all worked up, but that side of the ball has played fairly clean. It feels like there's some accountability on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
And then tonight, 3 or 4 of those penalties are just, those are focus penalties. Those are not investing in the work like Mike talks about all the time, type of penalties. They can't occur. They can't happen. Your 6-year program, it's unacceptable. That's on you. And that's on Adam Fuller too. And I was giving him some credit throughout this week because those guys, it did seem like that defense has improved every week. They fixed problems, whereas the offense hasn't done any of that. But then you go and do that. And that was aggravating for me.
And you had a chance to show the improvements that you made against an actual really good unit, a really good offense. You've been playing some mediocre to bad offenses, but you were still doing your job. Yeah. You had the chance to really step up, and you're still helpless on third down, and you're still doing the same dumb stuff you did in week 1 and week 2 against Georgia Tech and BC. So it's who really are you? Who really are you when the chips are down? It's been a bad coaching job from every single coach on this roster, every single coordinator. This is just, it's a terrible season. It's a game that probably wasn't as terrible as we thought it was going to be going in, but in no way does that excuse what everybody has to sit through and endure. This really is, you're not watching Florida State football this year, you're enduring it. And God bless every single one of you that have. The one thing that I want to get to, I guess before we get out, unless there's any interesting stuff in the chat that people want to talk about, I cannot I still can't get over how much of a rivalry game this did not feel like. Hard Rock was sold out because of course it always is when we come to town. That's when it sells out. We didn't care. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I want to say the Miami coaching staff cared. I know that they did. I know that they wanted to hang 1,000,000 points on us, but the Miami players, I don't feel like their hair was on fire and they really cared because they didn't respect us enough. And that's what almost makes me more angry is that you were 1-6 before this game. You have nothing left to play for. You're not playing in a bowl. You don't have a postseason. Like your postseason is the game against Miami and the game against Florida. And you did not. The players, the coaches, there was no extra oomph. There was no extra fire. We've seen bad Florida State teams play above their head in rivalry games before and at least put in that rivalry level effort. There's a reason why every college football fan laughs in a stat nerd's face when, rivalry game, just like any other game. No, it's not, dude. They're different. Like it's a lot harder to beat a bad Florida team in Swamp than it is to beat like a bad Virginia Tech team. There's something to it. And dude, there was nothing to it tonight. I don't know.
Do you think it's because of, Miami's got a lot of portal guys that play for them, that start for them. I mean, their starting quarterback's a portal guy, starting running back's a portal guy. They got a couple on the O-line, I'm pretty sure.
That's a good point.
They've got throughout that whole entire defense, they've got a lot of portal guys that start for them. Do they just not as invested in the game? I don't want to say they're not invested in the game. Obviously, they are.
But the history of the rivalry, that's a great point. The history
of that game itself and what it's meant throughout the years because of. But, you look at – I don't know. But you look at, like, Florida State last year. Obviously, Trey Benson was invested because he hated Mario for what happened at Oregon.
Bro, Keon Coleman had nothing to do with Miami whatsoever, and he's wearing the orange and the green.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. I'd be curious. It did not feel like Miami's starting running back is not a portal guy, and they only have one portal. Martinez is a starting running back, and he 100% is a freaking portal guy. I know they played Fletcher some tonight, but come on. Martinez is the starting running back. Break.
Also, who cares, bro? Like, why are you? I don't get. I get your point.
Freaking instant reaction.
Yeah, dude. I did. Thank you. Well, actually, guy. Congrats. Anyway, yeah, it's good job.
So yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel like a typical Miami Florida State game. Maybe it's because they just didn't respect them. Like there wasn't any that didn't feel like on the broadcast. Like in the beginning of the game, you could hear the war chant being sung.
Yeah,
you could pick that up. Like it didn't feel like Miami was piping in the crowd noise like they've done in the past. Like it just didn't feel the same.
No,
and like Mario was trying to run it up and he couldn't do it, right? Because he's a blubbering buffoon. But
and that's what makes me mad too. Like it's still not a great coaching staff on their side, but you've put your program in such a position where those guys can just beat your ass on TV with like a minimal effort. So that's once again, that's even more depressing. It's just
gotta wear it.
Miami's players didn't respect you, whether because they're portal dudes and they don't have they didn't play these same kids in high school. And that's where a lot of the great foundation of this Miami Florida State rivalry is guys that played each other for years and years and years. Like they didn't have that history, or you're such a terrible team that they didn't respect you. And Florida State didn't make them respect them whatsoever. There was no, this is not a 1-7 talented roster. You can put together better than a 1-7 effort. There's no level of energy, dude. No level of pride. Like you get to play for Florida State University and you get to play in the Miami Florida State game against like a name with a pantheon. That is a very exclusive group. And bro, you don't care. They wanted to hit. I don't know. Just like whatever. Game's a game.
Florida State ranks 13th, I think, in the 24/7 team talent composite. Since 2015, they're the worst. Obviously, the worst win percentage amongst teams in the top 15. So according to CFB numbers,
that tracks.
They got a team talent score of 879.48. They're 1-7. The next worst is 2016 Notre Dame, 2016 UCLA, 2017 Tennessee, and 2021 USC all were 4-8.
Kills me, dude. If you can't get these kids up to play and focus and eliminate the focus penalties and have the accountability and the urgency for the Florida State Miami game, how are you going to get them to play up for like UNC? Dude, you want to talk about that one? I'm going to have to look at the Charleston Southern numbers because I'm not confident in them to win another game for the rest of the season. It doesn't matter. They just don't play with any pride, man. And it sucks. And I don't have faith in the head people to instill that in them. There's no plan. We're kind of just good. We just kind of operate as we see fit. It's just, I don't know, dude.
December. Yeah. Here for December. Because, I mean, everybody wants to know about like people getting fired and stuff like that.
We don't know, and we're not going to call for it.
Yeah.
Changes need to be made. Duh.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like anything like that's going to happen anytime soon. And I wouldn't sit around expecting it. If it happens, then it happens. But I don't think you're going to see that anytime soon. But rivalry games like this and outcomes like the one that occurred tonight, like, we're all like, oh, they came close to covering or whatever. Like,
bitch.
It's just like you lose these games and money people care a little bit more than you lose SMU and you lose to Duke. Like, they don't care quite as much about those. You start losing this, you lose to Florida at home in a couple weeks. Those tend to have a little bit more weight to change.
Yeah, and my deal is, it's like, listen, just because we expected the game to go this way, the reason my expectations were so low is because the players and the coaches have done such a terrible job this season. Like, I get no solace in being right. It's just, and you're allowed to be mad, even if you expected it to be terrible. If we're waiting for December, I kind of have a feeling we're going to be disappointed too, because this is the same group of people that can't even make a decision. Yeah, man, life goes on. You got to embrace the optimism if you're going to be a Florida State fan this year. This is the same group of people that can't even really make a decision at quarterback. So why do you think that there's going to be swift, efficient, and multiple decisive decisions made on the coaching staff? Guys that have been together for multiple years. They can't even tell which 18 or 19-year-old is going to play quarterback for them and keep that consistent. So I don't know. If you're expecting a lot, maybe I'll eat crow. That's cool. I'm not expecting a lot. I'm really not. And
I've said that since week 2.
And if that does or does not happen, we will have multiple things to say about it at that time. As of right now, can't hypothesize. The only thing that I can do is analyze the present, and the present is garbage. Florida State 1-7 did something that hasn't been done since, 1956 Maryland. That's a wonderful club to be a part of. You lose, you're going to lose more, and I can maybe see where there's one more win left on the schedule. Anyway, Adam, anything to get to in the chat before we let these beautiful people go off and hopefully drink some Chattanooga whiskey?
I think there's just a lot of frustration. People excited to see if something changes. Hypothesizing who might go. Harvard Blue is very frustrated with us tonight. I don't think he appreciated a lot of our commentary, which is okay.
What did we do now, guys?
I said you don't care because you don't have to pay. I mean, I have been a Battle's End member since day one. And give a decent amount of money to the program. So yeah, that frustrates the shit out of me.
We do care, guys. We're here every single night after these
games. We'll be here for film review.
The beatings continue, and every single game is a night game. I know that sometimes we look like hostage victims in these things. It's not too much different from what I'm feeling inside, but we'll never quit because we do care, and we care about every single one of you. Obviously, Noles247.com, the place to be for all the frustrations to vent. Do it together. Let's have catharsis.
Deep breath.
Just try your best, guys.
We love you guys.
4 more games. We do love you. I swear to God, we love you. We love you. Thank you for sticking with us. Go to Noles247.com, subscribe. Film reviews coming. I'm sure that's going to be just a sparkling display to get to watch this again. And on to UNC.